Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're just going to be going over a really quick video I'm just going to make about a Trump best case scenario. We're going to be running through every single swing state, all his safe states, and even Kamala Harris's safe states, and we're just going to be giving out a landslide victory for Donald Trump and just seeing which states could possibly go to him, making him beat Kamala Harris, and we're just going to see which states go to Donald Trump in a landslide, even the swing states, and we're just going to give him his best case scenario in this election. Now, I personally believe Donald Trump's support is growing even more, especially after the last couple of events that have happened to him, like the assassination and then the debate with Joe Biden. Now he's possibly going to debate Kamala, which is very interesting. We're going to have to see how that plays. But I do think the support for Donald Trump is growing even more, and I think it's going to continue to grow all the way to November. Now, today we're just going to be giving a hypothetical landslide for Donald Trump and seeing which states he would win in a landslide. Now we're going to start off with Donald Trump's safe states. These are the states that I just see no possible way of Kamala winning. Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, both Dakotas, Nebraska at large with the 1st and 3rd district, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Alaska, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and Maine 2nd district. These are going to be Donald Trump's safe states, and the reason I put Texas, Florida, Ohio, and Iowa is because he won these states back in 2016 and in 2020, and I think the polling underestimates Donald Trump, and he's going to win them again this year. Even in a landslide, these are definitely locks for Donald Trump. Now, states for Kamala Harris, even in a landslide for Donald Trump, I just see no possible way of him winning. I'm going to give Hawaii, well, maybe we'll lighten it a little bit, but I definitely think Hawaii is trending a lot to the left, and I just see no possible way of him winning that. And California, I'll lighten it a little bit as well, but again, this state is very, very heavy Democrat, and I just see no possible way of a Republican winning this state anytime soon. And if we come over here, I definitely think Colorado would be in play. Illinois, Washington, and Oregon could possibly be in play. But I do think Vermont, Massachusetts, Maryland, probably, I don't know. I'm just going to leave it for there for now. And DC. Those are going to be the states that, again, I just see no possible way of Donald Trump even getting any close this year. We'll lighten them a little bit just to show improvement for Donald Trump. But again, I just see no possible way of Donald Trump winning these states anytime soon. Now, I'm going to be going over all these states, and we're going to be running through the polls and just seeing, we're going to be taking Donald Trump's best poll in the state, and we're just going to be adding it to the state and seeing where the state is and how it trends and giving it his best case scenario. We're going to start out west with Washington. If we come over here to Washington, we can see in the most latest polls, again, this is realistically a heavy blue state, but we're just going to be taking the best poll for Donald Trump. And again, you can see the Independent Center has him up by 5 points. This was all the way back in April, but this is a best case scenario, so that makes Washington a likely, we'll give it like more of a lean, Republican lean for Donald Trump. If we come down to Oregon, we can see in Oregon there are no polls that show Donald Trump is up. So I personally think Oregon would be more of an easier win to for Donald Trump to win than Washington. I definitely think that Independent Center poll that showed Donald Trump up was kind of an outlier. But again, as you can see, we'll be taking the most realistic poll, and this does show Harris up by 5 points in this state. So that makes Oregon more of a lean for the Democrats. And if we come down to Nevada, Nevada is very realistically probably going to go to the Republicans this year, actually. Donald Trump has been trending in the state. Even with Harris, you can see that there is a poll where he is up 1, even though this poll does show Harris up 2. But I kind of think Bloomberg might be a little outlier just because they had a poll in Michigan where Harris was leading by 10 or 12 points, and I think that is so unrealistic. I definitely don't think she's going to win the state. But again, if you just come down here, we can see Trump up 10 points, making that actually a safe state for Donald Trump. If we come down to Arizona with 11 electoral votes, again, Donald Trump did win this in 2016, so it is very possible. Joe Biden did win it in 2020, and the most biggest poll for Donald Trump is 8 points in this state, and that is against Harris, so that is interesting. So that makes Arizona not a safe state for Donald Trump, but more of a likely. And if we come over to New Mexico, this state is very interesting. I actually have this state on my radar for a possible Republican win this year. It is a Democrat state usually, but again, if you look at the most recent polling, even though it doesn't have Donald Trump up, we can see The polling for the Democrats is starting to go down. Biden was up 11 back in May, and now before Biden dropped out, he was up by 7, and now again he's only up by 1 or 2. We do need more polling because Harris is the new nominee, but I definitely think a lot of Hispanic voters are starting to trend to the right, and I definitely think New Mexico is in play this year. So we are going to give New Mexico a more of a tilt, maybe 1 or 2 point win for Donald Trump, since this is a landslide scenario. We come up to Colorado. Colorado is very interesting. It is one of the most heaviest blue states in the country. Now, it doesn't really show that on the polling, but again, it is starting to trend to the left every single election cycle more and more. And again, if you can see, we don't have a Harris poll, but Biden is up by 10 points, before he dropped out, making the state of Colorado. I don't see Donald Trump, even in the best case scenario, winning the state. It could be possible, but I definitely think he could come close to winning the state. But again, this state is trending a lot to the left. So we'll mark it as more of a tilt for the Democrats, maybe a 1 or 2 point win. I just don't see Donald Trump winning it. Even in 2016, he did come kind of close. Joe Biden won it pretty big in 2020. But you can see in 2016, Hillary still won it by about 5 points. So I definitely don't think this is a possible win for Donald Trump. But he might, even in a best case scenario, come 1 or 2 points shy of winning this state. And if we go over to Illinois, in Illinois it's also like Colorado. It's one of the heaviest trending blue states in the country due to the Chicago district. And again, if you look in the most recent polling, Biden up 20, Biden up 18. This one does have Biden versus Kennedy, which he's up by 3. But again, we're going to be taking Trump's poll. I don't see Trump winning this state even in a best case scenario. It is probably going to end up like Colorado. If we go over here in 2016, you can see Donald Trump did get blown out by Hillary Clinton in the state. And even in 2020, Joe Biden did beat him pretty good. So I definitely think the polling does underestimate the Democrats in this state. But again, even in a best case scenario, I just don't know if Donald Trump's going to come even close to the state. The most recent poll does have Trump, or the most closest poll does have Trump up by 9 points in this state. So maybe if we give it a few more points to the right, that still makes the state more of a lean like Oregon to the Democrats. And if we come up to Minnesota, Minnesota is just like New Mexico. I definitely had Minnesota on my radar this year. A Republican has not won this state since like 1970s, sometime in there. So it's been a very long time. I'm pretty sure this is the only state in the nation that has the longest trend to the Democrats. But again, Donald Trump could possibly pull this state off. The polling isn't bad in this state, honestly. Donald Trump has had some polls come out where he was winning against Biden. Now, there hasn't been any polls where he's been winning against Harris, but again, since Harris just became the new Democrat nominee, I believe, I definitely think she is going to get a lot more boost, but we'll have to see towards November if the polling starts to die down. But I definitely think even in a best case scenario, Donald Trump has a fair chance of winning this state. I will give it to Donald Trump as a tilt margin, just like New Mexico, because again, we did have polling down here when he was against Biden, where he was up by 1, 2, even 5 points. So we'll just have to watch with Harris. I definitely think she is getting like this right here. Harris up 10 points in this state. There's no damn way she's up 10 points in the state of Minnesota. I possibly don't believe that. Even Hillary didn't win this state by very much. She won it by, less than 2 points, honestly. And Joe Biden only won it by 8 points, I believe. So we'll have to see, but I just don't see Harris winning this state by 10 points. There's no way. But again, I definitely think this state is fair play for Donald Trump to win. And if we come to Wisconsin, this state is in play. Again, this is a very big swing state. You can see in 2016, Donald Trump did win it by just a narrow margin. But again, the most recent poll with Harris, Donald Trump is up by 1 point. Now, I am going to give the state a few more points to the right, just because it does tend to underestimate Donald Trump in this state. I just don't see this state, going like Minnesota and New Mexico tilting, especially if Nevada, Arizona, and all the other swing states are starting to trend more and more. I definitely think it will be like a lean, just like Washington, maybe about 2 or 4 points for Donald Trump. And if we come over to Michigan, Michigan is a very big critical battleground state. You can see it does show Harris up at the moment. I think that might be to the recent boost that she's gotten. But again, if you come down here, we can see Trump has been beating Harris. Yeah, here's the poll I was talking about earlier. Bloomberg has her up by 12 points in this state. There's no damn way she's going to win this state by 12 points. That's so unrealistic. But again, even this Trump versus Newsom, I don't think he would win it by 10. I think these are more realistic polls. So even though this poll is sponsored by the Republican Party, I think it's so much more realistic than whatever this Bloomberg Harris up by 12 points. Even if you factor in Kennedy, she's up by 12 points. That's so unrealistic. There's no way. So I am going to give this state, just like Wisconsin, more of a lean tilt to the Republican Party. If we go over to Pennsylvania, we can see in Pennsylvania, again, Harris did recently take the lead in the state, due to her upcoming boost, I'm pretty sure. But again, you can even see in the most recent poll sponsored by the Democratic Party, Trump is leading by 1 point in the state, and he has had a recent good trend of, especially against Joe Biden, where he was up in almost every single poll. Now, it is starting to show in the polls against Harris. Even that unbiased Bloomberg poll does have Donald Trump up by 2 points. Now, I definitely think Pennsylvania, since it is just like Wisconsin and Michigan, every year it votes kind of the same. Donald Trump won it by 1. He won Michigan by, very close, and then he won Wisconsin by almost very close too. So they usually tend to vote the same. So I definitely think Pennsylvania will just be like Michigan and Wisconsin, more of a lean to the Republicans. And if we come over here to Georgia, we can see Donald Trump is up by 1 point in the state. Now, I definitely think he is up by more than 1 point. In 2016, he beat Hillary by 5 points in the state. So I definitely think that might be more likely than whatever this 1 point thing is. This state usually trends more Republican than it usually seems. They have a Republican governor like Brian Kemp. And I think just Joe Biden barely won this state in 2020, and that was his big year. So again, if we take the most recent poll, Trump is up by 2. But the biggest poll, it does show Trump up by 5, just like I said. So I definitely think this state will vote more like Arizona, more 4 to 6 point win for Donald Trump. And if we go over to North Carolina, Donald Trump did win this state both times in both elections. And you can see in the most recent poll, he does have Trump up by 9. But if we take the most recent Harris poll, Trump is up by 4. I think that's kind of realistic. I think it's going to vote just like Georgia, anywhere from 4 to 6 points. So that makes the state of North Carolina a likely win for Donald Trump. And if we come over to Virginia, Virginia is just like Minnesota and New Mexico. It could be possibly, I believe it's going to be the closest swing state this year. Donald Trump is currently leading in the state by 4 points in this poll. Now, I think that's a little, I'm not going to say this poll is biased. I don't think that's realistic. I think this state will be a lot closer than 4 points, maybe anywhere from 1 or less than 1 point to anywhere from 2 points for Donald Trump. I definitely think he will tilt this state to the Republicans. This state usually goes to the Democrats, but again, in a best case scenario, I definitely see Donald Trump tilting this state and giving it a 13-point electoral win to the Republican Party. Now we're going to be heading up north and cracking down some of the Democrat states. Since this is a best case scenario, we're going to just be trying to give Donald Trump the best possible win in these states. If we go to Delaware and you look in the most recent poll, which there's like none, this state usually does tend to vote better than more of the up northern states. You can see Donald Trump did lose by a lot in 2016. He lost by 12 points. But again, that's better than, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, Vermont. It's better than all those states up north. So I definitely think Delaware is more likely win for Donald Trump than anything. Now, I don't see Delaware going anywhere to the Republicans anytime soon, but I will mark it more of as a lean, just like Oregon, to the Democrats, just because this is a Trump best case scenario. And same with all these polls. I did see a recent poll come out of New Jersey where Trump was up by 1 point. So if you come over here and we click in New Jersey, where is it? Right here. You can see Trump is up by 1 point. And I definitely don't see New Jersey going to the Republicans anytime soon. I just think that's so unrealistic. But this is a Trump best case scenario, so I will give it a tilt to the Republicans. And in New York, I did see a poll come out where Kamala was only up by 8 or 9 points. I don't see any way the Republicans are going to win New York this year, but I definitely think it could become very close state, just like Oregon, Illinois. I don't think it will be a tilt, but I definitely think it could be more of a likely for the Democrat Party, anywhere from 5 to 8 points. Now, New Hampshire is very interesting. In 2016, Donald Trump came 3 points away, almost 3,000 votes away from winning the state of New Hampshire. And as you can see in this state, there are some more recent polls where Trump was up by 1 point against Harris. So we will give the state of New Hampshire a tilt to the Republican Party. I think New Hampshire is more of a likely, probably the best upstate state for the Republican parties to win. I definitely think New Hampshire is more of a likely win for the Republicans. And if we come over to Connecticut and Rhode Island, they usually tend to vote the exact same, as you can see in 2016 and 20. Connecticut voted 54% to Hillary, and Rhode Island voted 54% to Hillary as well. So they vote the exact same. But as you can see in the most recent poll with Connecticut, Joe Biden is up by 8 or 9 points. I definitely think Kamala will do better than that, so I will give this state, just like New York, kind of a likely lean. Now, if we go down to the districts, Donald Trump did win the Nebraska 2nd district in 2016, so since this is the best case scenario, I can see him winning that district. And in the overall election in Maine, I can also see him winning by maybe a tilt margin. But the 1st district's definitely more of a heavy Democrat area, and I don't see Donald Trump winning that. But as you can see, Donald Trump has 373 electoral votes. You know, he's just shy of 400. I definitely think if he was going to get 400, he would have to crack a state like New York or Illinois or Colorado. So definitely one of those states, or maybe some of the more states over here, which I think are very unrealistic. But again, Donald Trump has 373 electoral votes, and Harris has 165, making Donald Trump win in a humongous landslide, becoming the next president. Thank y'all for watching, and I will see y'all on the next video.